Welcome, listeners. We are gathered here today to mourn the passing of a beloved fictional TV character from the hit ABC show Lost, Charlie Pace. I am David Hensley, and I am joined today by two other mourners.
Robert Bradford.
Cara Hayes.
And we are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective with the Season 3 finale, episodes 21 and 22, Through the Looking Glass, parts 1 and 2. But before we get to mourning Charlie, we have to talk about the meal that we ate together beforehand.
Yes.
What did we have, guys?
Oh, well, I thought it might be nice to eat our feelings while we watched Lost, so we had Live Together, Cry Alone dinner. Comfort foods. We had pizza, which Robert provided.
My wife Gina also got taquitos.
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot about the taquitos. And Hensley brought some mozzarella sticks, and I brought homemade spinach dip and a loaf of bread.
Fantastic. It was a good time. And if that goes down as like the last themed meal that we have for this show, hey, I think it was a good one. We'll see. It's something that we might revisit later on down the road because, you know, Lost does occasionally go back to the flashback structure of these first three seasons, so maybe we'll go back to having a themed meal whenever it seems appropriate. But for now, we are going to dive into our discussion. I said it wrong again, episodes 22 and 23.
I was wondering about that.
Even typed it wrong.
I looked at it and said 22:33, and I was like, wait, what?
Look, I was emotional. I was having very strong feelings about this episode.
And you were full of cheese.
I was full of cheese of various kinds.
Carbs in all of our brains.
Yeah, listen, it's fine. I needed something to get me through the sad. Anyway, Through the Looking Glass, parts 1 and 2 take place over days 90 through 91. And they're both Jack episodes. But they're not Jack flashback episodes. But we'll get to that in a second. This is one of the most clever things the show has done, and I can't wait to talk about it. The first note that I took down was Jack's depression beard. It's actually pretty cool. Pretty good look on him.
And it's a good depression beard, too, because it's just like, yeah, you would not let it grow in that specific shape in that specific way if you just still gave any kind of crap.
I don't like it on Jack, but that's, I preferred him shaven.
I will say they did the smart thing of waiting a long enough time between the most recent Jack episode, the infamous Stranger in a Strange Land, to give us another one. So none of us had like an instinctive, oh no, reaction when we saw that he was going to be featured on this.
I made a note that said it wore off so much. I don't even remember how long ago that was because it feels like forever.
Cara, you've forgotten what Jack's tattoos mean?
Oh, I do. Don't remind me again.
The series will be meaningless to you now.
Oh, man.
So we open the episode with, back on the island proper, with Jack leading everybody away apart from Jen, Saeed, and Hurley, who are staying behind to set off the trap for the others. And when Sun and Jen say their farewells, Jen says he's doing this because we have to go home. And he says it to her in English, which I just want to note again that they've carried forward the theme that language is sort of a bridge that divides them, and now that he's expressing this thought about the life they can go back to together, so heartbreaking that it won't actually end up happening that way, but just another really lovely continuation of language being just a theme of their story.
I don't remember, so...
Yeah, and every time we think about it or bring it up, I get sad once again. But the opening of this episode is incredible, especially thanks to Michael Giacchino's score. I didn't look up to see if there was anything punny about what he called it for these episodes. We get a return to the classic beach trek, or, going across the island, trekking music. We get a special theme at the beginning as we see Saeed, Jen, and Bernard standing there as everyone else leaves. It's beautiful stuff. It's the perfect way to start this episode.
I think we also get some crane shots on the beach. They do a little more visually with these camp sequences than they've done in a while, which is just kind of a nice way to ramp things up for the finale.
Well, and that's not even talking about the actual opening of the episode, which is Jack on board an oceanic flight with his beautiful depression beard. hammered. He sees something in a newspaper, tears it out, goes to jump off a bridge. There ends up being a car accident, and he has to rescue somebody. And here, like, it's Giacchino at his best, I think, because God, you feel Jack's depression on his behalf.
I mentioned later just what a great job Matthew Fox does in this episode, and there have been episodes where it's easy to forget what a good actor he is. I think, yeah, like you said, the thing about it is that while he has big moments to play of just, feeling angry or frustrated or drunk off his ass, just the moments when he's alone and he just looks empty, he just looks like there is just nothing holding him up, and when he's at that moment on the bridge, that's just... yeah, such a gutting moment even before you understand the full context of it. Because the assumption is, if you're watching for the first time, oh, this is another story we're seeing from like the lowest point of his post-divorce life. Because we've several episodes in the third season emphasized just how bad he got after that happened.
And can I just say, if knowing what I know, if I had been in a plane crash and somehow survived on an island, the last thing I would ever do is set foot back on a plane. Watching that scene, I got nervous. And for anybody who knows me, I am not a good flyer. Haven't been for a couple of decades now, I guess. But I got nervous. And I'm not even in a plane.
Well, Cara, that's because you've never crash landed on a magical island and had a transformative experience thanks to the unique properties on that island that are found nowhere else on the planet.
That's true.
And you've never then gotten off that island only to come back home and discover that your life has changed in a lot of ways that most of which you can't even understand. And now you long to get back to that magical island.
I mean, I probably wouldn't leave the island in the first place. Like, let's be honest.
I will say I think it's explained that he has a golden pass. So essentially, what will eventually be called the Oceanic Six, they all have like unlimited flights on Oceanic for the rest of their lives, which is probably a really smart investment by the airline, because how many people who get one of those would ever use it?
Yeah, and it's
Jack.
also the cost of plane tickets is probably a lot less than what they would have paid out to these 6 people in a lawsuit.
Though if the golden ticket includes Jack's beverage bill when he's on the plane, then they may not be so close to breaking even.
You got to get him somehow. So as they are trekking through the woods, Naomi has a conversation with Jack about the satellite phone and what to do when the green light comes on, just in case anything happens to her. Because you can't be on this island and not tempt fate at least once.
A day.
Yeah.
Speaking of fate, down in the Looking Glass station, Charlie is tied to a chair and being menaced by the 2 Looking Glass others, played by Tracy Middendorf. He's one of those actresses who's been in a lot of things, but I have a hard time remembering what specifically. And then Lana Parrilla, or I don't know if it's Parrilla or Parrilla, but who was probably best known as the evil queen on Once Upon a Time, but I think was also on The Shield, 24 for a season. Just one of those actresses who's had another very fun and varied career.
Well, and this scene gives us our first butt holster check-in as we see Bonnie put her gun behind her back. And the only reason I know that her name is Bonnie is because Greta, the other one, says it constantly throughout these 2 episodes. She is always calling out, Bonnie, don't do that. Bonnie, stop. Which was really nice of her, because the only reason I know her name is Greta is thanks to the credits.
I mean, to be fair, Bonnie does seem to need to be told, stop, don't do that a lot, because her plan seems to just be punch Charlie, and if he gives me an answer along the way, helpful, but otherwise I'm just going to keep punching him.
Well, I was rewatching the episode before you guys got here, and Bonnie's a fucking freak, man. Like, when she gets pissed off at Charlie singing, she's like, I'm going to go get the spear gun.
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn, girl.
We do find out that they've been down there with no contact with the others or the outside world for, I think, months at this point, so...
It's excusable.
Yeah, she might have a touch of the old hatch crazies that people get on the island.
That's a good point. Well, the 2 of them call Ben over at the other camp. And
The other camp?
The other camp. And Ben takes it inside his little glamper, and it's perfectly clear and understandable, but he gets up and walks outside where everyone else can hear it for seemingly no other reason than dramatic effect, because that is on brand for Ben Linus.
Yeah.
Yeah, hearing the communication of the looking glass is a shock to the others because they'd all been told that it flooded and that nobody was there. And when asked about this, Ben just succinctly says, "I lied." And for once, he is not lying.
Ironically. There's a lot that transpires in this episode to go wrong for Ben Linus. And Gina, Robert's wife, who has just recently been able to join us now that we've caught up to where she left off, she's becoming fully integrated into our little group because she said out loud, "It's nice seeing Ben scared." And we could all agree it is nice to see Ben scared.
Honestly, her reaction to watching Locke and Ben's pissing struggle over the others, or pissing contest for control of the others, was just to kind of hope both of them would lose. I think she was kind of done with both of them. It is somewhat ironic that Ben snaps at Bonnie for breaking the radio silence he's supposed to be maintaining down at the Looking Glass, but then once he figures out that there's something going on at the beach, he tries to radio Ryan, who's leading the party, and because Ryan is also maintaining radio silence, Ben can't reach him. So the problem when like exactly the wrong parts of your team are obeying your orders.
But it works out okay. Well, sort of. It works out 2/3 of okay because Saeed and Bernard both have rifles and have both displayed an acuity with rifles. Poor Jin is left with the only handgun that previously belonged to the boyfriend, Carl, thank you. And both of his shots at the dynamite miss. So we get two really great explosions and get to see the classic shot of others being blown into the air.
Very satisfyingly.
But after Jin is unable to hit the dynamite, he does the smart thing, which is he just starts shooting others instead.
Yeah.
It all goes off great until he gets captured, and then Bernard gets captured.
And they actually managed to get Saeed without as much of a struggle as you'd think. But I don't remember the name of the other, I think he's bald or like got a buzz cut, but he seems like kind of he seems like the quietly smart guy on the other's team, while like Ryan is coming up with a bad plan and Mr. Friendly is panicking. This guy just goes off and captures Saeed.
This whole episode is set up as the perfect follow-up for the season premiere because it hits a lot of the same beats. And really, unless you know the twist, and unfortunately, the two people that we were watching it with, Robert's wife, Gina, and my wife, Katie, they had figured it out or they knew ahead of time. I really wanted to know their thoughts on it, and I'd love to be there with another first-time watcher. When I watched this, it blew my fucking mind in 2009.
Same here. I'm going to say, Gina didn't know the specific twist. It's just that one of the few things she knew about the show going in from sort of the osmosis of Lost in pop culture was bearded Jack yelling, "We have to go back," just the meme of that. So as soon as she saw him with a beard, she was like, "Oh, are we going to get this? Are we going to get this?" And so she knew the one line that was associated with it that kind of could give her a clue about where it was all heading.
Yeah, we're going to continue talking about it as the episodes go on, but it just struck me, and I can't even remember what specific scene it was that made me go, "This is fucking brilliant." Like the clear misdirection of how closely it follows the season premiere, like how this is going to be the perfect bookend to the season. It's great.
And it's funny because I had forgotten about that, like about the twist, until Gina said, "Are we going to get the thing?" And I was like, "Get the thing? Oh my God, and that's like, it was buried in there, and then somehow that's what dug it out. I don't know.
It does feel like what it's leading us to is the moment where Jack gets past the depression of his divorce and becomes, the fairly well put together but still daddy issued up doctor that we met when the show premiered. And that's not where we're going at all. But yeah, we get to see Sarah again, who comes back because she is still listed as Jack's emergency contact, which, I mean, in the moment seems crazy, but knowing when this episode actually takes place is just really wild.
Very much so. And, there she is, pregnant. Some guys, I guess her new husband.
Which apparently was not scripted. Julie Bowen showed up to set pregnant just in real life and assumed they would be filming her like from the usual angles, baggy clothing, doing all the tricks. And they were just like, no, it'd be great if Sarah was actually pregnant, just as a full reminder to Jack of how much he's moved on from him.
Yeah, just a little extra fuck you, along with, being super fucking helpful. She won't even give the man a ride home. I don't think it would be appropriate. Oh, what the fuck, Sarah?
I mean, season 2, Sarah, we see the circumstances. She was pretty shitty, right? But
Yeah.
you got to think about the circumstances here. He's been gone for he was gone for 3 months, and now he's been back for 3 years and has been a full-blown alcoholic this entire time. Won't talk about what happened on the island. Keeps presumably calling her and Kate and anyone else he can try to get to listen to him. Also, she's remarried and pregnant, and I can't say that I wouldn't be like, no, I don't think I'm gonna.
Could you just let me hate on somebody for a minute?
Yeah, the show's gotten rid of most of your hate sync characters.
Yes.
I'm reminded of the joke on Community where it's one episode where Joel McHale's character shows up and is like, "Hi, I'm Pierce's emergency contact. Oh, are you here to pick him up? No, I'm here to be removed as his emergency contact."
Also, Julie Bowen, the actress who plays Sarah, says goodbye, Jack, at the end of that scene, and then disappears forever because that's the last time she's on the fucking show.
Good for her, honestly.
Yeah. So sorry, Cara, you're gonna find somebody else to hate on.
I'm
soon.
working on it.
When season 4 starts, you're gonna get a whole new group of side characters that you can pick somebody from.
A boatload, even.
There we go.
Yay.
So once they figure out that the plan didn't exactly go well, they only heard 2 explosions instead of 3. They float the idea of either going back or somebody staying behind where they're at to meet the survivors when they come back. Presumably Saeed. They're hoping Saeed, Bernard, and Jen all survive, and we'll meet them there. And Jack says, "No one gets left behind," which just made me go, well, because as we know, a whole bunch of people are going to get left behind 1 season from now.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how. I mean, clearly at this point, it's established that they had gotten permission to end the show after 3 seasons, and so they had a clear direction for where it was going. So they probably knew that they were laying seeds for, okay, how can we set this up to contrast with where we know it's going to end in season 4 as much as possible? And I'm still thinking I missed a few of those things because there are a lot of nods and call forwards to where I know the show is going. After Jack's attempted, I'm sure everything's fine, let's keep moving rallying speech, we get a look from Juliet where it's clear that she knows that things have gone wrong. Partly because I'm sure she knows the others and knows that, unless there were 3 explosions, they almost certainly didn't get all of them. But also she is used to a leader who is much, much better at lying than Jack is.
Very much.
Back down in the Looking Glass, Charlie is still getting beaten and threatened with guns. And what's kind of amazing is that he's just kind of rolling with it all. Not because, Charlie has been established as having a certain courage, but not being the best at dealing with violence and pain. But he knows he's going to die of drowning. So they can threaten him with beating and bullets and he's just, whatever. That's not going to be what happens. He can be smart mouthed as much as he wants.
And it's interesting to me because, that you got to have some confidence in fate versus, free will. And he's obviously on the side of fate. Well, this is how it's going to happen, so nothing here is going to change.
May as well use it to my advantage.
Absolutely.
And I think it's an early indicator of where some of these other characters are going to go because, again, in about a season, Jack is going to be firmly on the side of fate instead of free will like he did when he started the show.
Well...
Oh, Cara, your next note.
Yeah. So, back at the camp that blew up, well, I guess prior to that, when Bernard and Rose had, said their good see you laters, and she made him repeat, "I am not Rambo." So when they get captured, all they have to do is threaten to kill. I think it's Jen, is who they threaten to kill.
Yeah.
And Bernard just starts spilling the beans on everything. And I may have taken a very Dark note. Because I said, damn it, Bernard. I know you aren't Rambo, but you could have been Helen Keller.
Wow.
Womp, 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 womp.
I am just realizing, by the way, I think we might have said farewell to another beloved recurring fixture on the show. If Juliet was marking the tents for the women who needed to be abducted, one of whom was Sun, who they knew was pregnant, was the fuck tent one that got blown up?
It might have been.
Oh my gosh.
And how weird is it that when you said another long time, I knew what you were going to say.
Wow.
That's incredible. I didn't. Also, I've been struggling to hear myself the whole episode because I thought my headphones were just out. But no, I just heard myself. It's like hearing feeling your baby kick for the first time if you're a pregnant woman, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
Perfectly equivalent emotions.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't think of anything different about the two things. Anyway, continue.
But yeah, so like you said, Cara, Ben quickly gets the information he needs out of Bernard. And it's a nice moment because so much of this episode is about Ben's leadership just flying out of his hands and him getting more and more desperate. And he ends the episode in a pretty sorry place, but it is a good moment to remind you of how capable he is, that he just, based on the intel he's getting from his people on the radio, he figures out what the main survivor's plan is. And then when he hears who the three captives are, he immediately just says, shoot Quan, because he knows Jin is the one person who is neither willing nor, because of language, able to give him any information. So threatening or shooting him is going to be what is most likely to get the others to talk. So again, it's a nice moment of showing him still being able to manage the situation, even if it's going to fly out of his hands eventually.
Now, Cara, what do you have to say about Kate?
Well, I think it was the part that you were watching when I was sitting in here where Sawyer kind of dogs on Kate. 'Cause I think Kate's just on everyone's last nerve because they were talking about going back and he's like, I don't think we need to or whatever. And she's like, okay. And then he comes around and, she finds out that he does want to go back. And she's like, a minute ago you didn't want to go and now you do. And he's like, I just didn't want to go with you.
Burn.
And oh my God, that was so satisfying.
It really is. And it's strange that we're not given an indicator of exactly what the final nail for him was. He's in a funk because he murdered a man the day before, or 2 days before, I guess. And so that explains why he's like kind of off-putting towards everyone else. But it doesn't really explain why, like, when Kate tries to buddy up to him again, he basically tells her to fuck off. Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, she also brings up that Juliet was there to get information on who in the camp might have been pregnant, which definitely includes Sun, but might include Kate. And as soon as she brought that up, all five of us just went, ugh. God, and no one in the room with us was on board with Kate's pregnancy shenanigans. And if I remember correctly, this plot thread gets snuffed out pretty quickly into season 4, doesn't it?
I'm not even sure it makes it that far. The only thing I was thinking of is that the emphasis of how not pregnant Kate is on the island is sort of an irony for what becomes part of the cover story of the Oceanic Six in season 4.
Oh, that's right.
But otherwise, yeah. It's one of those moments where I feel bad for Evangeline Lilly because it feels like every episode of the last 6 or 7 has had a scene where a character is basically just saying, piss off, Kate. Like, ow. That can't have been fun to film.
No, but it's also interesting because the Kate that we get at the end of the episode is kind of like in less than 5 minutes, we get the Kate we've wanted all along, it feels like. Like, she's much more cooler and calmer, more down to earth, and like not putting up with Jack's shit. We need more of that Kate. And I guess we're going to get some of it soon, but we should have been having it all along.
Yeah. Back on, we also check in with Desmond, who wakes up from being knocked out by Charlie at the end of the last episode just in time to nearly eat several bullets from Mikhail, who's shooting at him from the shore. Mikhail, despite being a veteran soldier, is kind of a lousy shot because, unfortunately, depth perception is a thing. But it leads to Desmond diving down into the Looking Glass himself, swimming up into the moon pool, and Charlie convinces him to hide in a locker before Greta and Bonnie can step out. And I immediately jumped to the classic Metal Gear video game series, because sneaking into an underwater base and then hiding in a locker before the armed guards find you just is the bread and butter of that series.
Yes.
I love that. Back in the flash forward, Jack is checking out the chart of the woman who crashed the night before, and he's confronted by the new chief of surgery, whose name I can't remember at this point.
Dr. Rob Hamill, and I could not tell you why I remember that.
Because that's a fucking cool name.
I guess.
I should have remembered that. Dr. Rob Hamill. Fuck you for being so cool. He confronts Jack, like, why is this disheveled, apparently drunk man in a lab coat in this woman's room, and recognizes him. And Jack wants to perform the surgery on this woman, and rightly is told no, because she's going into surgery the next morning, and surgeon Gary Nadler is going to handle it. And that made me pause, because there's one other character on this show named with the last name Nadler, or Nadler, and that's Bernard.
Oh.
And it's not the sort of thing where it's like, all right, Shepard's kind of a more common name. There's a million Smiths and Jacksons and Johnsons. How many Nadlers are there? Nothing ever comes of this, I don't think. It was just, I'm sure somebody just pulled a last name out of a hat. But it makes me wonder how many internet theorists tried to make those connections between Surgeon Gary Nadler and Islander Bernard Nadler.
I had not thought about that. You do. You mentioned the new chief of surgery's reaction, and yeah, just something that actor does that I love is just playing this very friendly professionalism to Jack, but also just his growing exasperation with this burned out drunk who keeps trying to force his way into his hospital. Very rightly, this guy has no business being anywhere near patients right now, and this guy never cracking his professional facade, but clearly just being done with Jack. He does also identify him as the hero twice over, which I was trying to remember what we were supposed to think of that in the moment. I don't remember it being a line that tripped anything. I was thinking, okay, so he had his miracle surgery and then saving the woman on the bridge is how people would have interpreted that.
I think that's what it's supposed to be, yeah.
Because that's what I thought it was, but I guess I'm wrong.
Well, we know it's in the context of him being the doctor who saved everybody after the crash of 815.
Oh, got it. So it should be thrice over.
Yeah, if anyone remembers far enough back to him performing a miracle surgery on Sarah.
Yeah, you survive a plane crash and suddenly you're not that hero surgeon anymore.
Yeah, and again, it has been 3 years, plus however long it was before the... it was circa, 2001, 2002 when he saved Sarah, maybe even a little earlier than that.
He did kill an old Italian man trying to do the same thing, so maybe that unheroed him. So his hero score went down to 0, but he had to ratchet it back up for the...
There you go. There you go.
Life is about balance. Cara, you
I got it too early. Just the comment about, I didn't want to go with you.
And Juliet does end up going back with Sawyer. Because she talks about there being a cache of guns that they can use to go back and try to rescue the 3 who they're sure have been captured, which is how she and Sawyer end up going off together.
But before they go off together, Juliet and Jack share their first kiss. And it's a great moment. They're two of them have great chemistry together. And then it cuts to Kate looking disappointed, and we all took way too much pleasure in that because the season of Fuck You, Kate continues.
I think that was the point where when Sawyer and Juliet walked together, Gina kind of quietly went, "Oh, I'm here for this." Just excited to see these two characters get to play off each other again, and I was like, "Oh, you have no idea." Because it is truly the beginning of a beautiful pairing that I think even the writers got surprised by.
Aww.
Yeah. Back down in the Looking Glass, we find out that Charlie apparently went to the Ben Linus school of turning people against each other because Mikhail shows up and immediately Charlie starts trying to put a wedge between him and Bonnie and Greta. And it's just fun to watch because, like Robert pointed out, he's got that laid-back attitude of somebody who's going to die in the very near future. So why not fuck with these people a little bit? They have it coming.
That's not the only skill he brought down with him from the surface, as you noted.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and he also went to the Sawyer School of Nicknames because he calls Mikhail Cyclops.
I mean, I guess if you've been hanging out with the dude for like 3 months, you would start to pick up on the nicknaming thing.
And Mikhail, meanwhile, goes into the radio room or whatever to have a conversation with Ben, who instructs him that he needs to keep the jamming equipment operating at all costs and to kill Bonnie and Greta. I forget why he says they need to die. I think he just implies that they can't be trusted anymore.
Well, that and they know that he's been lying about the Looking Glass. He doesn't want any more. He doesn't want other people more than who already knows finding out how badly he has fucked up this situation.
And you feel honestly kind of bad for Mikhail in the moment because he just is kind of like, clearly this guy is just trying to be a good soldier. He just wants to go back to his little radio house and milk his cow and just have his quiet life. But he just keeps getting used by all these liars.
It's tough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about this line, actually. I forget what context it's in, but
Kate, for no other reason than just to set this scene up, stops to tie her, or she cleans out her shoe because she has a rock in it, which leads to Jack stopping to ask her if she's okay, which sets up this moment, Robert.
Right, and so he eventually says, "Because I love you," to Kate, which is weird because like 5 minutes ago he kissed Juliet goodbye, and we thought that part of the love triangle was in the past, but no.
Well, he has to, say stuff like that just to keep her on the hook a little bit, just in case.
Does feel like that a little bit. And it doesn't help that we cut to to Sawyer and Juliet talking as they go, because Juliet reveals that there's no cache of guns, but she just, needed Jack to let her go as well so she can amend or atone for what she did. And just in this scene, just Josh Holloway's chemistry with her, so much more relaxed and natural than his chemistry with Evangeline Lilly tends to be. And I don't care enough about this love rhombus to rank like which couples work the best, but like I rank, no, I don't care.
Well,
I would go Sawyer Juliet, Jack Juliet, then literally everyone else, like Claire and Charlie, Charlie and Hurley,
Saeed Shannon,
yeah, and then way down on the list it would be Jack and Kate, and then Sawyer and Kate.
I would put Sawyer and Kate a little bit higher because they actually can play the passion moments of it really well, partly just because Josh Holloway has an absolutely killer smolder. So, Kate literally melting into him makes sense because who wouldn't in that context? But yeah, it's awkward scene. But again, we're seeing just more setups of fun couples to come.
And Cara, we have a new contender for saddest line on the show.
Oh, God. When Hurley says, "I just want to help, please." Oh, my God.
Because he chases after Sawyer and Juliet wanting to help with the rescue mission because he already got turned down from helping Charlie in the Looking Glass and just clearly is tired of people wandering off to possibly die in dangerous things and him getting left behind.
This cannot have been fun to film for Jorge Garcia. 2 scenes in 2 episodes where it's basically said outright, you can't come with us because you're too fat. Now, in both cases, it's because the people involved think they're going on a suicide mission and don't want him to go down with them. But man, it's just heart-wrenching to watch. But it does set up a beautiful moment later, so we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Very much.
So as Ben is talking to Alex after they've gone off to try to track down the Losties on their way to the radio tower, he explains to Alex why he kidnapped Carl and drugged him and put him in a Ludovico machine, a.k.a. the Clockwork Orange machine. It's because... I glanced too far up the notes and saw because I love you. No. It's because I didn't want him to get you pregnant. Now, sure, no father wants to think about, their teenage daughter having sex or whatnot.
Also, the island kills pregnant people.
It does.
Women, yeah.
So just buy her some fucking condoms. there got to be Dharma branded condoms that included in that drop shipment.
You would think, because otherwise there'd probably be a lot less females on that island.
Exactly. Or some Dharma branded birth control. I mean, just the Dharma logo is already circular. It makes perfect sense.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it does.
you get your little pop open thing, and then this is Dharma on the
yeah.
top. Yeah.
They're a bunch of free love hippies. They may not have been very into any kind of contraceptive or protection.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Well, at the end of part 1, we cut over to Locke, who we last left after he was shot by Ben and is lying in a hole full of dead bodies. And I wrote, oh yeah, we all kind of forgot about Locke. We haven't seen him since the end of the episode before last.
Which, nothing against you, Locke. It's just there's been a lot going on.
A lot happening, yeah.
But fortunately for Locke, right as he's at yet another lowest point of despair, which that guy's a roller coaster. He really just goes from, I understand everything, I know my purpose. No, I failed. This island is worthless and I have to die. He's at another low point, and he finds a gun on one of the corpses and is about to put it to his own head when the giant version of the kid who used to be Walt shows up at the top of the pit and encourages him to get up and go do something that he needs to do. Which, they're filming it separately, so it's not obvious how much Malcolm David Kelly has grown, but his voice and just you can tell.
His face was, very different.
Yeah, it's important to note that it has been less than 3 weeks since Walt left the island.
Good grief.
God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I put it at the bottom of the notes how long this season has taken place over. But we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Just jumping back to another reason they didn't need to write Michael and Walt off as hard as they did. You could have just gone with the idea that as he develops his power, his astral projected self gets older. Because I think this isn't supposed to be the Man in Black. The idea is that this actually is Walt using his abilities to reach out to Locke again.
Right.
Just have the idea that, Walt's still a kid off the island, but the version of him that can reach back is getting stronger and getting older. I don't know. Just, it's a magic island, guys. You could have figured something out.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we go to part 2, which also starts with what we think is a Jack flashback. It's actually a Jack flash forward. And we get an early hint of that because Jack's cell phone is a Motorola Razr, one of the super thin flip phones that didn't come out until 2006 or 7. So anyone who knew their cell phones and was paying attention could have figured out this isn't taking place in 2004 when most phones were still bricks.
Or you could have thought that you were seeing a continuity error and had that brief moment of thinking you were superior to the show's prop team, only you're walking right into their trap, you arrogant fool.
Exactly. Robert, I was so mad about this one. Oh, no, sorry. This one's still me. Yeah, so as we find out, because...
What did I do?
I'm mad about the next one. So Jack goes inside a funeral parlor and finds out that there wasn't a funeral. It was just a viewing, and nobody fucking came. That was the thing that he found at the beginning of the last episode, of the obituary. He tried calling someone, we presume Kate, to tell them about it. Apparently, that was the last straw for him. Like I said, I was rewatching before you guys got here. On the bridge, after he stops his car, he looks at the obituary that he tore out right before he gets up on the top of the bridge to throw himself off. And we'll find out in the season, that the obituary was for Locke. Nobody went to Locke's viewing, which is one of the top 5 saddest things about this show.
In universe, I think it's because the name does not read John Locke. The name is the alias that Locke was operating under when he got off the island. So it's not like Helen would have showed up because as far as she knows, John Locke died in a plane crash.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But it is still, just looking back on it, just in retrospect, another piece of the very tragic puzzle that is going to be the end of John Locke's story.
Yeah. Now the note that I got mad about.
Yeah, so the name on the funeral parlor is Hoff's Drawler, is the name of the funeral. It is the funeral and anagrams parlor because, of course, Hoff's Droller unscrambles to flash forward.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
They were literally just writing it up on screen for us.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I looked up because it was on screen long enough, and those two names are unique enough that I went, Hoff's Droller. That's got to be like like the names of philosophers or something, or it's like somebody's family members. They're unique names. And then I looked it up because Robert put the anagram note in there, and I was like, oh, fuck you, come on, flash forward.
Yeah, it is crazy to look at that and just know the role that coffin is going to play. Not just because again, it's not revealed who's dead for a little while, but just the role that coffin plays in one of the show's greatest twist reveals. Oh man, I'm looking forward to that, and not because it's also very sad.
So I should have taken this note earlier, but it was near the beginning of the episode that it dawned on me. What the hell ever happened to Sawyer's cache of guns that he was keeping under his tent? But then, of course, we watched this episode 5 days ago, and since that time, I've had time to think way too much about the show, like I do. They had, at one point, a shitload of guns. They had several AKs and M1s and variants of the two of them. They had multiple handguns. But then they went trekking off into the woods for the first time. They were confronted by Mr. Friendly and told to give up all their guns, which included 1 rifle and 4 handguns. Then they got some more of them and trekked off again at the end of season 2 and got captured by the others, who made them give up their guns or took them from them again. Then after Kate and Sawyer returned to the camp, Kate, Locke, and Saeed took presumably the last of the guns to go off after the others, only to get caught and have them taken a third time.
So the guns are with the others.
The others have all of the guns now.
Wow.
When you put it that way, our heroes do kind of sound like persistent failures.
I mean, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, wow, that's fucked up, guys.
It's like the firearms equivalent of like the bully who like holds somebody at arm's length while they just sort of fruitlessly swing and they're too short to reach.
They end up with 1 rifle of their own. They borrow Rousseau's, and then they take the Beretta that has passed hands from Alex to Ben, or Alex to Locke to Ben, back to Alex, now to Carl, who passed it off to Jin.
And it's very possible, honestly, that that's the gun that gets into Sawyer's hand when he does what he does at the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. We need to make like a corkboard red string chart for that 1 Beretta.
Yeah, it's been in a lot of butts.
It gets some... I was not ready for that. That should have been an episode where Jack is trying to trace the source of a rash that like 9 characters have, and he finds out that the others have it, that like Alex and Carl both have it. Like he's just like, what is the connection? What is the? And he's like, oh, we've all been shoving guns into our ass cracks. That's why, and then trading them to other people.
I would have also liked for the Beretta to get its own flashback episode. Have either of you guys seen the movie Bullet Train?
Yes.
Yeah, every time a character is introduced in Bullet Train, we get a short, like, basically flashback clip show to introduce who that character is and, like, what their past is, and very quickly establish who they are. At the end of, or towards the end of the movie, a bottle of soda, I think it is, or it's a bottle of water, ends up being plot relevant, at which point we get a series of flashbacks establishing that one character bought that bottle of water and showing where it went throughout the movie to end up where it was to be plot relevant.
Oh, God.
We needed one for the gun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sorry for breaking you.
That's amazing. Back down to the Looking Glass station. So Mikhail's been ordered to kill Bonnie and Greta, but actually seems to feel bad about it. And so he comes out and just, tries to ask them, hey, being down here in the Looking Glass, not being in contact with anybody, did you ever wonder if you should disobey those orders Ben was giving you? And then Bonnie says the absolute worst thing she could possibly say, which is, no, we follow orders. We have to follow orders or everything falls apart. And Mikhail just says, okay, and starts shooting.
Womp. Oh, once again. Oh, but then we get a beautiful moment, Chekhov's spear gun, because right as Mikhail is about to execute Charlie, who comes out of that locker, but Desmond with the spear gun and shoots Mikhail in the chest, which is surely the killing blow that finally puts this Russian bastard out of his misery, right? That was the thing.
Also a very Snake Plissken thing.
Yeah, oh, very much so.
Let's see.
Yeah, so I took my note out because I don't remember what it was about.
I think it's because so Ben goes trekking off on his own and intercepts the survivors because he knows the radio tower they're heading to.
Yes.
And asks Jack just to talk for a few minutes, and they go off. And Ben tries to talk him out of everything he's doing, trying to contact the boat, trying to undo the jamming. And yeah, I think you made the note, Cara, that like this is one of the few times where Ben is actually being cards on the table, honest with somebody, because he may or may not know who's really responsible for that boat, but he is correct that like there are a lot of not good people looking for the island, and he ends up being right about the danger it represents. Unfortunately, because it's Ben, Jack very reasonably does not believe a single word he is saying. That Jack has, again, following the course of the season, just assumes every word out of this guy's mouth is crap, and he just wants to keep them in this place where he controls everything. So this leads to Ben. I think he's telling to Jack to destroy the radio, to destroy the walkie-talkie, and he says he's going to have Saeed, Jin, and Bernard all shot if Jack doesn't do that, and tells Tom, if you don't hear my voice in 1 minute, shoot all three of them. And so we get just a countdown of Jack agonizing over, the time getting closer and closer, and Ben just trying to talk him out of what he's doing. And we never cut away to the beach. We never see what anybody else is doing. We just stay on Jack and Ben in this clearing, and it's similar to what I talked about in the episode where Naomi arrives on the island. Just amazing work with two actors and the music just building tension as based on what we imagine is happening in the places we can't see. And of course it ends with 3 gunshots and Jack beating the ever-loving piss out of Ben.
Yes, it's glorious to watch. And then after that, Jack picks up the walkie-talkie, calls Mr. Friendly, who he was just playing football with a few episodes ago, just a few days as far as he knows, and makes one of the grandest threats of this entire show. I love Jack, king of threatening people. This is on board with, on the same lines as we're going to blow them all to hell. Great. Let's keep that, Jack, please.
And meanwhile, Ben's badly beaten self gets dragged back to the survivors, and he gets tied up so he can be taken with them. And this is where Alex and Rousseau finally meet for the first time, which I'm sure Ben thought about the possibility of them meeting. I don't think these were the circumstances he would have envisioned of him just being tied up and beaten bloody on the ground while they finally just lock eyes again. I didn't make much of a note about it. It is a very sweet moment that Mira Furlan has just played so much of the pain and the fear that Rousseau feels when she thinks about seeing her child again after all this time. And they've also got some rough stuff ahead of them, but they do. It's a very touching reunion. Also interesting to note that I think we had a bit of projection on Jack's part because he says he wants to bring Ben with them so he can see that he's failed. So he's going to be there when they call for the freighter and they get off the island. And it's interesting that would be Jack's assumption of the worst thing Ben as a leader could experience is knowing that failure. And because we know how much fear of failure drives Jack. I also want to note, Gina thought all 3 of them were dead. I looked over at her and she was very shocked when I think she was sure there was going to be some way out of it. So I think they don't overplay the tension because if they give you too long, you're going to be like, wait, they didn't kill all 3 of those guys off screen. No way that happened. But they keep the tension going just long enough before revealing that, nope, the beach guys actually just shot into the sand by their heads because they weren't sure enough about Ben's leadership to carry out the order.
But then we get the reveal that Hurley really did get to help. I would have jumped up and down.
Yes, this is the most exciting. Well, no, it's one of the most exciting things about the episode. But the setup is great because Sawyer and Juliet make it back to the camp, and they're debating what the fuck they're going to do because neither of them have any weapons, and it's 2, I think, against 7.
I think 7 others died. So I think it's Tom, Ryan, and then the other guy who caught Saeed are the only 3 others that are still, but they're all armed and on guard.
And Juliet and Sawyer are not. So as they're debating what they're going to do, Sawyer hears something in the distance, and then here comes Charlie in the Dharma van. Hurley. Sorry. Here comes Hurley in the Dharma van that previously contained the corpse of Ben's father, crashing onto the beach, running over one of those 3 guys, and giving Sawyer a chance to grab what might have been the butt gun, Beretta, kill somebody else, and then Saeed gets to kill a man with his fucking ankles. It's glorious.
Just great cathartic moment of, and honestly, a nice little payback from all those decades ago from the Dharma Initiative, that the van where this whole attack started now comes back and is like the tide turner in the fight between the survivors and the others.
This whole sequence up to this point is brilliant because we think we're building towards a happy ending for this season. We get a series of really triumphant events, starting with, to a minor extent, it is still sweet, like Robert said, Rousseau and Alex finally get to meet. Ben gets the absolute shit kicked out of him by Jack. We find out that Saeed and Jen and Bernard are still alive. Hurley comes in and saves the day, and then Sawyer picks up a gun and saves the day, and then Saeed kills a man with his ankles and saves the day. And at this point, you're given enough hope that we can change Charlie's circumstances, that everything's going to end on a high note. They're going to get rescued, and Charlie's going to live, and it's going to be great. And then the last 10, 15 minutes of this episode happen.
Yeah, because we keep cutting back to the flashback that remind us that, the cost of what Jack has done. And we think in the moment that it's the story of just this guy who burned out his personal life because of his need to fix everything. And we've seen on the island how Jack's need to be the leader, the one who steps up, has just put him in place after place where he has to make impossible decisions. And even after finding out that, like you said, you think he's had his, okay, I got out of that moment. He has that terrible second where he thinks the hard decision he has to make is resulting in the death of 3 people. He finds out they're alive, so he can go ahead and save the day. And we're going to find out, no, there is a much higher cost still waiting for him.
Yeah. In one of the last flash forwards that we get in this episode, we see Jack probably at the lowest fucking thing that he has ever done up to this point, which is breaking into the hospital's drug stash and stealing from it.
I'm trying to decide if it's that or forging a prescription on his dad's script paper.
Yeah. Either or. I mean, they're both pretty fucking low. And he gets confronted by Dr.
Rob Hamill.
Dr. Rob Manley McManleyson Hamill. And who calls Jack out on being drunk and high. And we get a great line from Jack where he says, call my father down here, and if he's drunker than I am, I don't even remember what the rest of the line is, because if you're still thinking this is a flashback, yeah, it makes sense. The look on Dr. Hamill's face is some brilliant foreshadowing, because he very clearly has a look that goes, your father's dead. What the fuck are you talking about? It's brilliant. It comes and goes because we still don't know the reveal yet. I loved it. There's sometimes playing the end of the scene, as the directing term goes, is a bad thing, but this is brilliant here.
And meanwhile, back down in the hatch, back down in the looking glass, Charlie and Desmond seem to have everything in hand. Bonnie, before she dies, tells them how to, the sequence they need to use to turn off the jamming equipment. In a fun note, it's you play the song Good Vibrations on the number pad, which is just a cute thing that, like, oh, that's another reason Charlie had to be the one down here, because he's the one who knows to do that just instinctively. He even asks Desmond, like, are you having any more flashes now? And Desmond takes a moment, thinks, and sort of smiles and says, no, like seeming very happily surprised. And Charlie goes in and he gets the equipment working, and he's talking to Penelope, and Penelope's there, and Desmond's, oh my gosh, Desmond's right outside. They're going to get to talk to each other again. And then Desmond says, or Charlie says, yeah, Naomi's here from your boat. And Penny says, who's Naomi? I'm not on a boat. And before Charlie can process any of that, he looks out the window.
And there is fucking Mikhail, who survived a beatdown from Saeed, a beatdown from Jin, getting thrown through a sonic fence and having his brain scrambled. And finally, a spear through the chest.
He also got beaten down by Locke.
And beaten up by Locke. Survived the spear to the chest, dove down through the moon pool, around to the communications room, pulls the pin on a grenade. His last fuck you to these people. Charlie does the heroic thing and goes and slams the door before Desmond can get there and doom himself as well. And then the grenade goes off. And the only silver lining that I could take from any of this sequence of events is, well, at least Mikhail is finally dead. I wrote down, he died the way he lived, dying.
And this gives us one of the most iconic images of the show, the one that just any Lost fan will immediately recognize and have a reaction to, because they're sealed on the other side of a door. They can't hear each other, but Charlie, as the water's filling up around him, takes out his Sharpie and writes 3 words on his hand: not Penny's boat. And holds it up so Desmond can see it, confirms that Desmond understands what he's saying, and then the water fills up the room.
Yep, rest in peace, Charlie. We all knew that it was coming, and it broke our hearts anyway.
We cut to Aaron sobbing and speaking for all of us.
Yep. They pulled the Band-Aid off quickly, which was nice. I expected to get more emotional over this moment, and I did shed a tear when it happened, because the way that it's filmed is beautiful. Again, gotta say, Giacchino's score here is incredible. Charlie trying to keep his head above water and keep his hands steady so he can write this final note on it. The look between him and Desmond, it's all phenomenal, but it happens so quickly. From the time the grenade goes off until the room fills up and Charlie drowns. After we spent so long building up to it in Greatest Hits, I'm glad they didn't draw it out any longer than they did. But also, fuck them for teasing us that we might get a happy ending out of this whole thing, because we're not done yet.
Nope.
The line from the line from Penelope to Charlie where she says, I don't know, or who's Naomi, then sets up some brilliant tension for the rest of the episode, because that's not the end. We still, like, the green light goes on, the communications are open, they turn off Rousseau's message, they can call out, and Naomi even says to Claire, what's your boyfriend's name? Claire says Charlie, and Naomi says, your boyfriend just saved everybody's lives. He's a hero. But now we don't know. Can we trust Naomi?
I was thinking about it. The one thing that she's clearly lied about is she claimed to be working for Penelope Widmore. And we know that Penelope has no idea who she is. Now, that could mean Naomi's been lied to, maybe. But yeah, there was just something rotten. And so
we know they're working for Charles Widmore, her father. It's perfectly reasonable that he could have said they were working on behalf of his daughter, since presumably he is payroll or bankrolling the whole thing.
Yeah. So it's unclear if Naomi actually is being deceptive and malicious, or if she's just a pawn too. But yeah, that
just based on the context that the episode gives us in like the beginning of season 4, I really think that, because it was, spoilers, we've already watched it obviously. The other people on the freighter, like Miles and Lapidus, who are the only two characters whose names I remember.
I remember him.
You don't remember Faraday? Ow.
Faraday,
Oh.
there we go, and Charlotte Lewis, yes, the C.S. Lewis proxy. They're all relatively good people. It's really only Kimi and his team of mercenaries that are outright bad. Oh, and there's also the mysterious other member of the freighter.
Yeah.
So really, I think Naomi probably was on the up and up, just given the context that we get from the episode itself.
But like you said, there is a tension, and especially as Jack makes the call. I think Ben makes one last plea for him not to, and then Rousseau just knocks him out with an elbow, which very satisfying moment again. Like you said, all triumph. The music swells. Someone says, Jack, where are you? We're going to come get you. And it seems like they've finally done it. And we're all watching this because it's like, wait, hold on, that can't have worked, right? Like, they can't be getting off the island. They're only 3 seasons in. We know they've got more. Again, even us not knowing how far it was going to go back when we first watched it. Yeah, how can they possibly swerve this? And we find out. Because we cut back to one last flash of Jack, and we see him in his apartment, and it's a wreck. He's drinking, and you have to catch it because you don't get too many wide shots of the apartment, but there are maps scattered everywhere, which is also foreshadowing to what we find out he's been doing. And he makes a call, and finally the person he's been calling agrees to meet him. He drives out to the airport, a car pulls up, and Kate gets out of the car.
And there is just enough time here before they start talking to where most audience members are going to go, well, wait a minute. Jack and Kate didn't know each other before they landed on the island, did they? Or did they meet at some... Right, like, it just as it's starting to settle in, and it's not until the two of them start talking that it finally sinks in that what we are seeing is a flash forward, and although we don't know it at the time, 3 years later, in 2007, it's incredible. Robert, you had one more note here.
Well, Kate eventually makes her excuse for leaving the conversation, which she's clearly not enjoying. Like, it's clear that she hasn't wanted to see Jack for a long time. And she says he's going to be wondering where I am, which teases us as to who else might have already made it off the island, because the logical thing is to assume that she's with another survivor.
This whole performance out of Matthew Fox is brilliant. As he tells Kate that he has been using the golden pass they were given by Oceanic. Every weekend, every Friday night, he flies somewhere. When he lands, he turns around and goes back to LAX because he's hoping that they crash. He doesn't care about anyone else on board. He only wants to get back to the island or die. Which, in a whole episode of really dark shit, 2 episodes of really dark shit, you find out just how fucked up Jack has really become since they got rescued, which all builds to Kate leaving and him screaming the now iconic, "We have to go back, Kate. We have to go back." Why? We don't know yet. In 2007, audiences had no fucking idea, and I really wish I had gotten into this show a lot earlier. There were, when I was watching it with my friends at the time, well, my friends had already binged up to that point. They were watching season 5 as I was watching seasons 1 through 4. There were certain episodes that they all wanted to be present for, Walkabout being like the first big one. This one they all wanted to be present for so that they could all look at me like, fuck, man. We talked about like, what does everyone remember from Lost? We have to go back, and this twist ending is one of them.
I've said before, Lost does not, it's got its ups and downs. It's got some shaky moments. It does not miss when it comes to finales. And I think this one, in my memory, is the one to beat for just ending it, wrapping it up, giving us these beautiful, triumphant moments that feel like a really great conclusion to a season that had its uneven moments, and then just ending it with this huge throw forward. What just felt like this crazy Hail Mary to be like, you think the show ends when they get off the island? Oh no. Oh no, that's just an act break.
Well, sorry, continue.
Well, and just also solidifying Jack, who'd kind of fell off as a character. Like I don't think he was anybody's favorite at this point. Just it felt like all the supporting characters were much richer and more interesting. And so then to see this broken, haunted version of Jack, who has this clear redemption sketched out, it gives him the plot that he needs to get him where he'll go across the next 3 seasons. Like, it's just, they set so many balls in the air on this one, and it's amazing how many of them I just know are going to sink through the net. That's a mixed metaphor, but yeah.
I completely just I was gonna put in the notes here, like, what do you guys think is the best twist ending that Lost had? But then I started thinking about it, because this is a big contender, but really only 3 and 4 end on a twist. This one, finding out that these were actually flash forwards we've been watching the whole time, and some people make it off the island and for some reason need to go back. Season 4 ends with the revelation of Locke's body being inside the coffin. But the rest of the seasons,
Season 5 technically ends with also a reveal of a body in a coffin.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Okay, yeah, so... But I was thinking, 1 and 2 really just ended on cliffhangers. And then 6, it was just ended.
1 and 2 felt like they were mainly focused on tying off, like, the previous thing. And it wasn't so much a twist as... okay, what are we going to see in the next season? They open the hatch, but they can't get down. They get the raft on the island, but there are these strange people who show up and kidnap Walt. And then in season 2, it's like, okay, the hatch gets destroyed, but now they've been kidnapped by the others. And this is the one that, ends with an actual, like, oh no, here's something that recontextualizes everything you've been thinking.
Well, now that it's, out there, that people get off the island, do you guys remember who the Oceanic Six are?
Yes.
Because I've been thinking about that since Sunday, trying to remember who all of these characters were. And there's a very simple reason that I could only come up with 5. Cara, do you remember who the Oceanic Six are?
I can come up with 2.
Who you got? Well, Jack and Kate. Yeah. So it's Jack. Robert, do you remember?
Yeah, so it's Jack, Kate, Saeed, Sun, Hurley, and Aaron.
Yep. I kept forgetting about Aaron.
Aaron. Yes. I do remember that now.
I was like, fuck. I remember Saeed gets a flash forward. Hurley gets a flash forward. Sun gets a flash forward, because that episode is particularly tragic. Who was the other person to get off the island? I don't remember. And then I realized, that's because it's Aaron.
I wish we'd gotten a flashback or flash forward of Aaron where it's just him lying in his crib while dramatic stuff is happening around, but all he hears are just gibberish because he doesn't speak English yet.
Oh, missed opportunity.
If they had like full 23 or 24 episode runs for the remaining seasons, we probably would have gotten that at one point.
Oh, yeah. I was about to ask you, who is he? Because Kate says he's going to be wondering where I am. So naturally, you're meant to assume that she's probably talking about Sawyer. Sawyer never makes it off the island, though. So I was going to ask, so who's he? And then I realized, again, it's fucking Aaron. Aaron, who would be 3 at this point, would be the one wondering where she was at. Oh, man. Yeah. So anyway, like I alluded to earlier, I took note of the number of days that each season takes place over. Season 1 took place over the course of 44 days.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so about 6 weeks. Season 2 was 23 days. And season 2 was 23, and season 3 is 24 days. So from them getting captured and taken to other island to the getting the signal through to the freighter, 23 days have passed. Which we'll talk about in a couple of months when we watch season 4, but that makes for an interesting time frame for something that happens that we find out later, i.e. Michael returning for season 4, and how the fuck that happens.
Yeah, he goes through a lot in that less than a month.
Less than 2 weeks if you do the math. I think like less than a fucking week he is actually home. But we'll talk about it more when we get into season 4. But it makes for a really hilarious time frame. That's why I wanted to make sure that it was in here how much time passes, 24 days. So that is Through the Looking Glass parts 1 and 2. Before we go on hiatus, we've got 2 more episodes planned. Next week, we are going to do a Season 3 recap where we talk, like we did with the first 2 seasons, we talk about the highs, the lows, what worked, what didn't, and wrap things up there. And then we're going to do our Lost adjacent movie episode. And that'll take us up through the end of June, at which point we're going to go on hiatus for July and August. And come back to watch Season 4 in September. And I can't wait because I want to just go on to watch Season 4 now. Robert, did I hear you and Gina say that you guys were just going to fucking start watching Season 4?
I jokingly said we should just, as soon as they're gone, let's put on the next episode. But no, I will not break the faith. I will hold off, even though, dang it, I'm excited for Season 4.
Yeah, I am too. All right, that's going to wrap us up. Robert, social media or a thing that you are excited about right now?
I am excited to be in the show Puffs, which I've talked about, but for people who are in the Charlotte, Rock Hill area, close to where we record, it's going to be out in Monroe, and it opens next Friday. So Waxhaw Community Players, or Waxhaw Community Theater. Yeah, if you're in the area, check it out. It's a fun Harry Potter pastiche.
Nice. Cara, something that you're excited about or social media?
I'm excited that I am almost finished with Pet Sematary. Interestingly, it's a little bit darker than the movie that we watched from the 80s. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So then I get the excitement of figuring out what the hell to read next.
Fantastic. We are gearing up for Hamlet. I'm going to be directing that. We're all going to be involved in it. Cara is stage managing. Robert is playing Laertes.
Yay.
But I'm also still on the hellscape of social media on Instagram at DBHensley. If you would like to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoyed the show, or if you enjoyed listening to any of the other shows back when they were still on the air, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
We have to go back.
Not Penny's Podcast.